Hello, this is Erica with Launching Legacies. Welcome to our daily devotional. Now, today we are finishing, or not really finishing, but following up on the devotional series we've been working on. And this devotional series is about the good father setting us up, right? And we said it's a setup. And so we say, oh, it's a setup. So what is it a setup for? What is God trying to set us up for? Well, he's trying to set us up to bless us, but he's also, the concept of the setup is to say that how good the character of God is, even when we don't fully understand and can't fully perceive what he's doing. So remember, we were looking at a passage from Matthew, the 7th chapter, and we're going to go back and look at the 9th through the 11th verse, in which he talks about what a good parent does. If your child asks for something, you give them what they're asking for, not something that's harmful, not something that's useless, but what they're asking for. We talked about yesterday how what we're asking for and how we get what we're asking for may not be the way that we think that we're going to get what we're asking for. And so I talked about the parent that makes their child work so that they can earn money rather than just giving them money out of their pocket. And today we're going to kind of follow up on the same concept. Now, there's a famous proverb that I don't know where it began, but it goes something like this. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Now, you probably have heard that proverb because it's very popular and its origins are really of no concern. We all recognize it as wisdom though, right? We recognize that if a person is taught to do something, they have a skill, and that skill will always be able to feed them, as opposed to just getting something for one day or for one meal and finding themselves hungry again. Now, we know that that's wisdom when we hear it. We get the concept of learning a skill is valuable. And then sometimes we start to ask, seek, and knock, and we are wondering why God is answering it differently than what we thought we were going to get. Because all of a sudden, the wisdom that we found in that proverb, we no longer think is wise when it's applied, the same concept is applied to our lives. And so we go to Matthew, the 7th chapter, we find that, look, God is doing amazing things in our lives, but sometimes we need to learn how to fish. And so he says, look, at what father, when their child asks for a fish, gives them a snake? But what amazing father, when their child asks for a fish, gives them a fishing pole? And what a brilliant father then takes that child with that fishing pole out into the water. And then what patient father takes that child with that fishing pole on the water and teaches them to catch their own fish? And then what father shows that child with that fish how to prepare it so that they grow strong and can go out again and fish another day? You see, we are serving a God who is the Father that teaches us to do what it is we need to do. Because you might be saying, oh, I really want this significant other. I really want this spouse that I've been praying for all my life. And God might be teaching you how to fish, because he realizes that if you don't learn to love, that spouse that you've been wanting so badly to love will not be a benefit to you, but a harm. That if you don't know how to receive, that you'll never be able to get the comfort you've been really looking for in the spouse that you've been really looking for all of this time. And so the spouse comes, but you don't know how to receive their love. Ugh. And so you always feel like you didn't get what you asked for. You always feel let down. You're like, oh, but I asked and I seeked and I knocked. And God is saying, and I taught you and I set you up and I tried to prepare you so that you could receive the goodness of the gift that you were asking for. You see, God is doing bigger things than we can imagine. And sometimes we need to learn how to fish, because it's in the skill that God is developing us. It's in the thing that we don't fully understand that God is really answering the fullness of the prayer. He's like, I want to give you good things. I don't want to give you a useless man. And he's not useless because he's useless. He's useless because you don't know how to use him. I don't want to give you something harmful. Right? I don't want to give you a dangerous situation, but a knife in the hands of a kindergartner could be dangerous, but the knife in the hands of a chef with the skills to use it can be magical. And what we find is this: sometimes we don't realize how deficient we are, and even what we're asking for requires so much skill and so much development that we cannot fully comprehend the work that needs to be done in order for us to receive what we have asked for. But God said, listen, because you asked, because you sought, because you're not, because you were looking, I'm going to give you what you need. But will you trust me to develop the skill? Because sometimes you need to learn how to fish. Sometimes you need to learn to go through this process. And sometimes it's not comfortable. It's not easy. It takes longer than you thought it would. But it's what is necessary for you to get what you truly need. Because sometimes we're asking for the fish because we're hungry today, but God knows that we'll be hungry next week. And so he's giving us something that helps us to learn so that next week we won't be asking for the same thing again. Not because he doesn't want to give it to us next week. He's a good father. He says he has all the abundance and all of the wealth. But why don't we realize that God wants us to be in a position in which we can thank him for eternity for what he did for us today? That's a big thing, that we can thank God for eternity for what he did for us today. What does it look like? It looks like him teaching us to fish, even though we asked for a fish. And you're like, but I've been asking, I've been seeking, I've been knocking, and God has probably been providing. But have you been willing to learn? Because for all of us, there will be a time where we need to learn to fish. And that's what the setup is about. He's setting you up to teach you something. And I'm praying for you. I'm praying that you're healing, living, growing. I'm praying that you continue in this devotional series. And I'm praying that you're watching again tomorrow as we continue this series. And until then, I'm praying that you